The reason EU citizenship is so much better than any other citizenship in the world is that 1 equals 27. If you're a citizen of an EU country, you have the right to live, to work, to set up a business.
The Global Passport Investor is your go-to podcast.
Welcome to the latest episode of the Global Passport Investor. I'm your host, Eric Major, an investment migration veteran with over 3 decades in the game. I'm also the founder and chairman of the Latitude Group, where our clients expect the world and we deliver it. We're glad to be back for another season here at GPI. We completed 22 podcasts in our first season with over 12,000 views. So many thanks to all you listeners and viewers for supporting us in our first season. And welcome to season 2, where we continue to cover all things relating to international residency and citizenship. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, we invite you to leave your questions in the comment section below. And for those who are listening to the podcast, email us your queries to questions@globalpassportinvestor.com. Okay, so today we're going to be talking to you about the power of EU citizenship. Why is EU citizenship so much better than any other citizenship? And within the EU, which country holds the pole position as the very best citizenship out there? And how can you get it? So let's start with the first question. The reason EU citizenship is so much better than any other citizenship in the world is that 1 equals 27. 1 equals 27. If you're a citizen of an EU country, you have the right to live, to work, to set up a business, to study, to reside, and to settle and retire in all 27 EU member states, all without a visa. You just show up. So if you're Estonian, you could go to work in Germany. If you're German, you could go study in France. If you're French, you could set up a business in Sweden. If you're Swede, you could go retire in Malta. You get the picture. So you have unfettered access to all 27 EU member states, all without a visa. That's the main takeaway. And by contrast, as an American, for example, you can't just show up in Canada to set up a business. You need a visa for that. Similarly, as a Canadian, cannot just show up in the United States and decide I'll retire in Florida. I'll need a visa if I intend to spend more than 6 months in the United States, which is something my mother painfully discovered about 15 years ago when she showed up at the border and the port entry officer said, Mrs. Major, we're seeing that you're spending a lot more time than you can as a visitor. In fact, we think you're spending more than 6 months in Florida. You need a visa because you look more like a resident than a visitor. Go get yourself a visa. And of course, she eventually did get her green card and even citizenship. But no one wants to be turned away at the border. You have to have visas if you're going to be spending any amount of time to live and work and study in most countries. But within the EU, you have access to all these privileges within the 27 EU citizen member states, and that's what we call the right of settlement. It's a big deal. So that's the power of EU citizenship. It's called the right of settlement, and it's a big deal. It's also why I rate all European countries as having grade A citizenship. And you may ask, what's the difference between grade A citizenship and grade B or C citizenship? And it's all about the privileges and the advantages that you obtain when you become a citizen of that country. For instance, I've rated basically the 9 main countries that offer citizenship against a financial donation or a financial investment, what we typically call citizenship by investment or by merit. And this is what the table would look like. So as you can see showing up on your screen, I've rated these countries in terms of grade A minus, grade B minus, grade C minus. And so at the top of this table that show countries that offer citizenship against a financial contribution or investment, you have Austria with its citizenship by merit. And if you manage to get through that process, you'll have the right of settlement in all 27 EU countries. You'll also have a passport that gives you a visa free travel to about 191 destinations. and you'd be joining a country that's well developed with a strong GDP of 470 billion. So pretty good passport, pretty great citizenship to have, I would say. And I'll tell you in a minute how you could get it by merit. But next in line, also grade A because it's part of EU, but I call it A minus simply because it's a smaller country. It has really all the same privileges in terms of the right of settlement as Austria does. It has a little few less, visa-free travel countries, 187, but still a very good and strong passport. For instance, in the U.S., it's 185, so even stronger than the United States, but slightly smaller country, and they have a well-designed program. In the B citizenship, you have the 4 Caribbean islands that are mentioned here, Antigua, Grenada, St. Kitts, and St. Lucia. They, too, have great passports that afford visa-free travel between 147 to 157 countries. But they, too, have a version of this EU settlement arrangement, which is called the OECS member states. They have made an arrangement between seven of them to be able to share settlement rights and the right of establishment for its mutual citizens within those 7 countries. So a mini EU version. Obviously, GDP-wise, these are much smaller islands, and that's why they command a little bit less in terms of their grade at a simple B. B minus, I put Dominica in there, also a fellow Eastern Caribbean country with a few less visa-free countries that their passport affords, and obviously a slightly smaller economy, but essentially very close to the other 4. And then C and C minus, you have Turkey and Vanuatu, who, again, they don't have these settlement rights anywhere else in their country. The OECS does, and so does the European Union. Let's put some comparison to this. Well, someone asked me, how would you rate the U.S. Citizenship based on those same parameters? Well, I'd call it a B+. It's a B+ because, yes, you have the right of settlement. They do have the right of settlement, and it's 5 U.S. territories. These island states, Guam and U.S. Virgin Islands and American Samoa and the like. These are all U.S. territories that if you're an American national, you could just show up and establish yourself there. But that's not as many as 27 member states like Europe has. And yes, U.S. passport holders certainly have strong visa-free travel privileges with their passport at roughly 185 destinations. But having visa-free access isn't enough. As we saw during the pandemic, Americans were barred from entering many countries at the start and at the height of the pandemic, including from its friendliest neighbors and allies, Canada and the United Kingdom included. So that's just not enough. It's really the power of where you can go if you choose to move with your citizenship. Does it give you access to other places?
The greatest investment you could ever make is an investment in your future.
Obtaining a second residence or citizenship is the best modern insurance policy for you and your family. They are concerned about their safety and global mobility, and they trust us to deliver professional service, to diversify their nationalities and broaden their global access, and to protect their business, their family, and their future.
Latitude Group,
Our clients expect the world.
we deliver it.
Some people ask me, well, Eric, okay, you've been in this business for 30 years. Like, what's the best citizenship in the world? What is it, according to you? Well, my table doesn't get into all nations. It talks only about these 9 nations that have citizenship if you make an investment or donation. But if we exclude that and you ask me, of all the nations of the world, which one has the best citizenship, and I rate it a grade A+. So Austria was A, Malta was A-. A+ goes to Ireland. Ireland is the most precious and privileged citizenship and passport of the world. Why? Because it's the only country that not only gives you settlement rights in the 27 EU countries, but it also gives you settlement rights in the United Kingdom. Basically, it's the pre-Brexit EU deal. And by virtue of its geography and its heritage and its history and this common travel area that they have with the UK, Irish citizens could just show up and they're given the right to live, to work, to set up a business, to study, to reside, to retire in the UK, as well as the other 27 EU member states. So very, very privileged position. And let's face it, it's also the country that created Guinness. So for that reason alone, they deserve an A star. But Ireland's not on my table because it doesn't offer citizenship by investment. But guess what? You can obtain, if you're lucky enough, citizenship in Ireland by descent. And many Americans do qualify for this given their lineage to Ireland. And if you're lucky enough to do so, you could even get this for very little money, simply a filing exercise. And we at Latitude obviously have our citizenship by descent team in New York that takes care of that, as well as for other European countries. But yeah, if Ireland is A plus, and then the rest of Europe is A or A minus, and then you get into the B pluses like the United States, like Canada, and then the B's and the B minuses as the table shows. So let's say you don't qualify for citizenship by descent. So you're looking at having to make a donation or looking to make an investment. Well, again, these 9 countries I feature on the table also have a price tag. And of course, it's a grade A, as Austria has. It's because it's also not only a strong privilege, but it will be an expensive one to acquire. Typically, you're looking at, in US dollar terms, because it's obviously in Europe, but in US dollars, you're looking at roughly $4 million US donation into meritorious projects that are very broad into, basically would be accepted by any government as being of significant merit to the nation. Okay. Or you can make investments, but that amount would be north of 10 million. So investments is your investments, your assets. You have a return on those investments, hence a larger amount. But if it's pure donation and contributions, be it in the realm of the arts or science or environmental or education, these are all very broad themes that the Austrian government is very much supportive under its provisions of citizenship by merit. And I will be doing a podcast on Austria in one of the upcoming sessions, and stay tuned for understanding more about how this program, or these provisions, I should say, are available mostly to Americans, frankly. In the case of Malta, as the table shows, A minus, also not cheap, but still, affordable for some wealthy Americans who are prepared to depart with between 1 to 1.2 million US dollars, depending on the size of the family. Again, donation to their national development and social fund. And the country uses that money for a bunch of very meritorious things, including during the pandemic. I think we had a session on Malta in season 1, which I invite you to review to get more information on how that works. In the Caribbean, basically, all these grade B, B minus countries, very much more affordable, although they've just increased in price. They have donation levels between 235 and 335, 235,000, 330, depending on the size of the family, of course. And you could also, alternatively, you could invest in real estate, and you're typically in for 350 or more, depending on what you buy. So listen, these are the main options that Americans are asking about that are available. And if you have any questions about these programs, well, of course, we invite you to ask them now in the section below. If you're watching me on YouTube, or if you're listening to the podcast, feel free to drop me an email at questions@globalpassportinvestor.com, or visit our website, latitudeworld.com, for more information on these programs that we're very active in. Indeed, it's all about SMILE. At Latitude, we're all about SMILE. What does SMILE mean? It means S for security. It's M to enhance your mobility. It's I for giving you an insurance policy and provide for investments abroad, which what these programs provide for. It's also about L, about enhancing your lifestyle and engaging in another life in another part of the world. It's also about E, for employment or education opportunities abroad for your children and for yourself. So we invite you to contact us today to have us enhance your SMILE. Thank you for listening.
For a deep dive into the recommended residency and citizenship programs available, please check out latitudeworld.com for further details.